So they send their top 10%. Got more resources already coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logic and Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, got more resources already for y'all. They send their top 10% is an example of fictitious notion, a bunch of nonsense that black people believe that's just simply not true, but they believe it nonetheless because they've been indoctrinated with it. But anyway, it was said at one point in time that America was a melting pot, that all the items that you put into that melting pot melts and then it all melts into one. Well, it didn't take them long to realize that that was a bad analogy, and then they came up with the salad bowl. So actually the salad bowl would be more of an accurate example of what America is. People separate themselves based off of groups. It's always been the case, but basically everybody live together in harmony and makes it work. It works, except for when a certain group of people of a certain religion start moving to other countries. I'm not going to name them, but basically America is a very diverse country, a very diverse nation. There's pretty much every race, every race can be found, and just about every culture could be found in America because people move here for the opportunity. Now, many immigrants come to this country and do very well for themselves. Doesn't mean that they're rich, again, but you don't have to be rich to do well for yourself. But they come here and do so. Now, one of the things that conservatives will say to black people, well, wait a minute, if all of these people, these immigrants groups are coming here doing well for themselves, even blacks from other countries coming here doing well for themselves, and again, that doesn't mean that you have to be rich. You don't have to be rich to do well for yourself. Then why are black people complaining about America being a racist country then, if evidence shows that they're not a racist country, because everybody comes here and succeed and do well for themselves? Well, they excuse, basically they send their top 10% smartest people is an excuse that blacks use to try and justify why all these people are doing decent in this country, while blacks a bitch moan and whine and complain all the time about how bad this country is and the racism. Well, that argument is flawed on so many levels. First of all, let's talk about this idea of the top 10%, the best and brightest coming to America and coming to the West and leaving their home countries. Typically, in every country, it doesn't matter how poor and impoverished that the country is, even a third world country, have its elitist, and then they have what would be considered their middle class. Even if there's a lot of poverty around them, you always have your elitist and you have your middle class. And this is the case in Mexico and Central America, South America, and third world countries all over the world. You always have your elitist group and the people who middle class that are doing well, that are having nice lives. Well, those people have no invested interest in leaving their country. Why would they leave their country if they're doing well? If you live in Guatemala in Central America and your family is elite, living high on the hog like royalty, why would you want to leave that and then come to America where you have to compete with more people, which is a more competitive market? If part of the middle class in Mexico City, why would you want to leave Mexico to come to America? Because you're doing well for yourself. Typically, it's the poor people who believe that they have no opportunities are the ones that leave and basically migrate to the West to what they believe to be better opportunities. Right? When we saw those basically migrants, those bands of migrants migrating all the way to America, going through South America, going through Central America, going through Mexico, basically trekking 1,500 miles, 3,000 miles to get to America, bypassing their own governments where they can go to their own government and demand better to come here. That wasn't the best and the brightest. Those were the people who believed that they had no opportunity. As a matter of fact, Venezuelan president opened up their jails and let them be part of the migrants. So we saw criminals getting in those bands of migrants to get here. Was that the best and the brightest? No. Why would why would all the people in Venezuela who are doing well for themselves want to leave? They're doing well for themselves. The poor people, the ones who have the opportunity, the ones who leave. So it's not the top 10%. And then on top of that, even if it were, let's say that somebody who's the top 10% smartest people and they from a lower class, they're not from an elite family, they decide to leave and come to America. They're the top 10% of their country's smartest people. Well, they're still allowed to succeed. If they come to America, they are still allowed to succeed in this country. So then the problem isn't the system. If these people are allowed to succeed in America, the problem isn't the system. The problem is the people. So then you can't say that America's a racist country. All these black folks who cry about how bad America is and the system holding them down. Well, how is the system not holding those people down? Even if they're top 10, they're still allowed to succeed here. So then at a certain point, if a black person says this, then they're actually implicating themselves and they're basically providing a rope to hang themselves with. Because you could easily say, well, wait a minute. Then, like I said, if these people are able to come here and succeed, regardless if they're the top 10% or the bottom 10%, they're still allowed to. So then why don't you take advantage of the same opportunity that exists? The same system that allowed them to succeed. Again, makes no sense when I say that the leftist arguments are incoherent and don't make any sense. They just say anything because their objective is to push their agenda, not to get down to get to the truth. So, and they'll do everything and say anything they can to push their agenda, and oftentimes means that their arguments are very incoherent and don't make any sense, and a lot of things that they say conflict with other things that they say. Regardless, if you ever hear any one of these race hustlers crying about they send their top 10%, the smartest people to America, well, now you know, and know this have the battle, and it's always y'all until next time.